On today's episode of Gathering the Kings.
I do think that this whole boss bitch mentality, I think is ruining our culture. And I think that you can still be a boss, but be feminine and you will stand so highly regarded in your power. Like, I mean, I have so many male clients, but I think what I bring to the table is it's like a lioness, like a very feminine touch, right?
What's up, everybody? I'm Chaz Wolfe, Gathering the Kings podcast. I'm coming to you with a special edition. I'm actually recording right now. It is 8 p.m. Kansas City time. I never record this late, but there is an exception that I make to every single rule. And that rule, or that exception rather, her name is Justine Pogroske. Welcome, Queen Justine. How are you?
Thank you so much. Firstly, thank you for that wonderful introduction. And I like how you added the word queen in. You're hired. You're
There you
probably
go.
stuck for life with all my intros. So,
Well, they said I had a face for radio, so I had to start doing the
I
voice,
like that. Space for radio. Perfect. Perfect.
Well, Justine, you really are a special guest. You're coming from the land of Australia across the other half of the world. I've been to Australia, but we'll get to that here in a second. I want to know what kind of business that you have.
Firstly, I'm so humbled. Thank you so much for having me on the Gathering Kings podcast. It is such an awesome title for a podcast, by the way. So just want to
Appreciate that.
commend you and your team for what you're doing in the world. Secondly, I run a company called Million Dollar Branders. So it's a branding digital agency, and we build legacy brands for the experience age. So, I mean, in these times with AI and all this fancy stuff coming out, I think the one thing that people all have in common, well, most people who want to leave a fingerprint on the world, is they want to build a legacy. So
Yeah.
we do that through online and offline because we believe that it's not just about digital connection. It's about your presence, whether it be online or offline. So that's basically,
Yeah.
we're a full service agency and we bring your brand to the world and we shine light on you. And I love
Love it.
it. Absolutely love it.
Light people up. I love it. I think that, if I'm hearing your value statement there, and it's really honing in on legacy driven entrepreneurs, legacy driven brands.
Yes.
And so I'm curious for you, what does legacy mean?
I think it's something that's left behind after you're not here anymore. And it's something that's going to impact way after you're gone in a world that is ever changing. So it doesn't
Yeah.
matter. I mean, if you fast forward 40 years from now, the world can be completely different, but your principles and your values will still remain relevant. And I think
Yeah.
that's what a legacy brand is. And not just about a brand, a business, a company, your presence as a person. You know, I work with a
Right.
lot of personal brands ranging from NASCAR drivers to top directors and entrepreneurs who are doing incredible things in the world. And that's what I strive to do. That's what I'm doing with my life. And it's an amazing job. I'm blessed, truly.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I'd be curious to know your opinion of the opposite of that. Like if somebody wouldn't consider themselves legacy driven, not necessarily what are they after, because both you and I are legacy driven and we don't like we're not in alignment with that. But what is someone missing if if they want to become legacy driven? If someone's listening right now and they're like, oh, I've never really thought about being legacy driven or leaving something after me. Of course, we've all thought about it maybe a little bit, but really I haven't like pressed in and I'm not really sure what does that mean for me? What should I be thinking about if I want to become legacy minded or driven?
Well, firstly, that's a really great point, and thank you for sharing that because not everyone is an entrepreneur. I think a couple of years ago, entrepreneurship was given this glamorous view where people were posting stuff on Instagram on their laptop, going, "I'm living a laptop lifestyle from Thailand or from I don't
Right.
know what the Maldives. I don't know where they were, but it's so great and fancy, but it's not all about that. Like, I mean, you and I know that takes a lot of hard work, takes tenacity, a lot of sacrifice. That's if you're a serious entrepreneur and you're actually making money. Cause I'm going to say
Right.
this and let's just cut to the chase. There's a lot of influencers online who don't make money, but they spend their lives creating content, but they can't pay for their own lunch. I'm not like that. So I know what it takes to be an entrepreneur. And what I'm going to say is it's okay if you're not set up as an entrepreneur, if you're not built like that and you haven't thought about building a legacy, then that's okay too. Like, I think then focus on fundamental things as a human being, like being kind. You know, all interactions you have throughout the day are going to have a domino effect. Like being an entrepreneur, being a good person, it doesn't really make a difference just as long as you are living to your full potential in life. And that's my belief. But I
Yeah.
think if someone is looking, if they've had that thing, where they're like, something's missing, I'm a bit empty, I'm looking for more, and they're in a 9 to 5 job, what I would say, I think there was Jim Rohn that said, work, what did he say? Work full time on your job and part time on your fortune.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, I
Wow.
did that. That's exactly how I started my company. And I think if you're looking to become an entrepreneur, or you have a little idea that you've always wanted to do, the worst thing you can do is die without making it happen.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it was all going to quote Les Brown now, but he said the richest place is the cemetery, because there's so many people who die, not having lived out their dreams, not having their businesses set up. They've died with stories they haven't told. And,
Yeah.
those are the quotes that you don't want haunting you. So I'm a very driven, motivational person. I come from an immigrant family, so had to work really hard for everything I have. But I think the main thing is, in order to be fulfilled in your life, everyone's legacy is going to be different. It might be,
Yeah.
you be a mom, you want to have kids, you want to be a stay-at-home mom, which is a full-time job, or if
Yeah.
you're a mom, you want to drive Uber. If that makes you happy, then go for it. That's your legacy. That's what makes you happy. So I think we're living in a comparison culture still. It's become a bit better since COVID, but what I will say
Right.
is, live your rich life and do what makes you happy and fulfilled, because it's all different. And don't look at anyone else, because that's going to get you into a lot of trouble. So I know that was a long answer, but I hope that makes sense.
Oh, yeah, super great information, and if anybody's paying close attention, they just got, like, 7 quotes and 4 motivational videos condensed into about a 90-second answer, which I just love. Okay, so you mentioned, like, really wherever the position that the listener is at, leaving a legacy really is thinking about your impact on other people, and that could be being kind. That could be setting up multiple assets and a big fortune money-wise for your family. And regardless of what end of the spectrum that you're on, or if you want to do both. The point there, I think, is that as entrepreneurs specifically, but people who are legacy driven, legacy minded, we have to be selfless, right? More others focused as opposed to self focused. The listener doesn't know this, but when I was giving you like the kind of like the pre-work here before we hit the record button, I'm talking to Justine, telling her how we need to, talk about what she does and make sure it's clear and promote her. And it's not gonna feel weird. It's not gonna feel promo-y, because I really want her to be able to share what she does. And that way you guys listening can know what she does. And if you guys need her help, you guys can, call out to her and let her know. But she said, yeah, let's just make it about everybody else, because that's what legacy minded people do. They're always
Absolutely.
looking for a way to make it about everybody else. And so I'm not going to let you off the hook, though, because this show is about you. And for you, though, you said there's stories that people go to the grave with. What's the main story that Justine is sharing?
Well, I don't know if you do know my story, but for the listeners out there, and I know some of my listeners may hear this and may know, but I immigrated from South Africa. I grew up in Johannesburg, South Africa. I immigrated at the age of 11 and a half. And my mom was held up by 9 men with machine guns. They broke into the house. She had to hide in the bathtub. My dad, my brother, and myself drove into the middle of a shootout. The power line was hanging literally by a thread in front of our house. And literally the next day after that, we found out my mom was okay. A few minutes later, I'm sitting as a little kid, like ducking for cover when there's gunshots going from side to side. My dad was like,
Wow.
we didn't know if my mom was alive or dead. And
Yeah.
the next day, she was like, we're out. Like, this is the last warning that we've had. We're out of this country. And even though, I mean, South Africa is the most amazing place. I don't know if you've ever been. That
I haven't
country
yet.
has, it is the most special place on earth. Like, still to this day, I have such a soul bond with that country. But, I was blessed that my family were able to give me an opportunity in a new country in Sydney, Australia. And, it has no crime, there's no guns, it's very safe. And we came basically with not a lot. My dad had to requalify, with 3 kids at private schools and become an accountant again after he had run a very successful practice in South Africa. And
Wow.
we honestly didn't have a lot. Like, we were sleeping on bean bags in our new house,
Wow.
which cost, like, I mean, they only let you take a certain amount of money out of the country. So my dad
Wow.
was very smart in how he operated the assets, but they never told us we didn't have a lot of money. But as kids, I think you have kind of a sixth sense. You just know, and you hear conversations and you hear things. They thought we didn't understand Afrikaans, but we understood it perfectly. So
Yeah.
I from the age of 12, I went and got a job, and I actually worked in a few different jobs, but what it taught me was tenacity. It taught me appreciation. It taught me what I could do for myself, in terms of being independent. And it just gave me this drive. It's literally this drive I can't even explain, insatiable drive. And I remember campaigning for my first job in advertising after university. And I got into the world of advertising and I just never looked back. And starting
Yeah.
my agency, fast forward, I mean, being an entrepreneur, there's no ceiling. You create your own life, you create your own destiny. But I just want people to know that it's a journey and it's not going to unfold easily for you. Like, God's going to test how bad you want things.
That's
It's
right.
gonna through actions, it's gonna come through messages, and you just gotta keep going. And I think if you believe in your vision, and I'm here to tell you, you will be successful. And success can be defined differently for everyone, but what does that success look like to you? And it's hard to kind of come to that conclusion. You've really got to
Yeah.
define what success looks like for you, because if you chase happiness, you're never gonna reach it. And
Yeah.
that's something that I've learned. So I think that story for me, learning not to chase happiness, but learning to kind of follow the curve, what makes Justine happy at that point in time. And happy can also be defined as different things with different people.
Yeah.
So story to the grave, like there are so many moments I've wanted to give up and throw in the towel, but I
Right.
didn't. And I'm never going to. And I remember there was a stage, someone very close to me said, maybe you should just go get a job. And I remember turning around and they said to me, you will never be anything in your life.
Wow.
And looking me in the eyes, and I just went, we'll see about that. Like I literally said, we'll see about that. So
Yeah.
you have to believe so strongly in your vision and hold that so close to your heart. And it doesn't matter if it's your mom, your brother, your sister, your whatever, whoever it is telling you otherwise. Like if you are skilled and you are good at what you do, you have to believe in your vision with all your might, with all your power, because you will be successful if you put in the work and the
Yeah.
time and have tenacity.
Yeah. Well, if there was ever a formula for success, you just gave it to us. And you spent the most important moments of all that explaining what I feel like also I agree is that the most important piece is belief. In this case, it's, what is it that I want? Clearly defining that, as you said, and then going after it. The tenacity piece is interesting that you've used that word several times here. I think that a lot of entrepreneurs think that they have tenacity because it's hard and, they have to kind of figure things out. But you actually gave a more truer perspective of what real tenacity is. It's, I'm not quitting,
Mhm.
period.
Yeah,
Yes,
absolutely.
we're going to have to persist. I think a lot of, and persistence is absolutely part, it's up high in there, as far as the equation goes. But just because you persisted through a trial or two or three, it doesn't mean that it's going to stop. And so what you have to have, actually, what Justine's sharing with you guys, is that it takes tenacity. Tenacity is a decision that I'm not freaking quitting. And it doesn't
Yeah.
matter what comes or how many trials or how long I have to persist. I will not quit, period. It's a decision. It's a resoluteness. Would you agree with this?
Absolutely. And I love that word resoluteness because it's so final in a way. And like, as I said before, I don't know if I believe in God. I believe in the universe. I'm extremely spiritual. And again, it's energy. So the energy
Right.
you put in is the energy you're going to get out. I don't care what it is in terms of your health, your fitness, your clients, your soul, your mindset. You have to make sure that you are showing up in your best energy because situations have come up. I am so strict with how I spend my time and my energy now. Like I will
Yeah.
not put myself in environments outside of my home environment where I'm not
Right.
in a situation where I'm learning or growing. Anything that makes me feel bad, I'm like, goodbye. And I'm still learning that
Yeah.
because it's a really hard lesson to learn. But just that what you said, resoluteness, like being at peace with what you want and coming up with a resolution and chasing that and staying very disciplined on your path. Like that's
Yeah.
not something easy because I feel like things and people and stuff is going to be thrown at you and it's like little tests. So you
Yeah.
have to stay so tight. Like you got to have that tunnel vision to keep carrying on and saying no to those distractions.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that you're hitting on several things here that not only I've gone through personally, but I feel like there's a lot of entrepreneurs that questions bubble up around what we're talking about. And so I want to maybe construct some new questions here just from our conversation that we're already having. I'm interested in what you hear or what you think about. I'm gonna kind of paint a picture between intensity and relatability. One, intensity is resolute. I've made the decision. I don't care what happens. I'm going to get what I want. So I've clearly identified what I want, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to get what I want within human, reason, right? Like within, like I'm not harming anybody type of a thing. But on the other side of it, that is a completely unrelatable thing. So you said you've got maybe people or circumstances that you've now recognized that aren't serving you to get where you want to go. So you've had to either cut off the time or cut off that person. And that's completely unrelatable because that's like, not many people can look on to that and say, Chaz, like, I'm not willing to do that, right? That's my mom or that's my whatever, fill in the blank, like you said. What's your take on being intense and being so like resolute, like we're talking about? Because clearly you and I are, and we could go hours on this. But how do I know, like, am I a robot then? Do I just always doing this? Or how am I relatable at the same time? Or how are you relatable at the same time?
Sure. So I think it's a process, and anyone who's listening here now, if you're in a situation, whether it be work, whatever it is, like, I mean, I'm still learning this. Like, it's an ever-changing lesson, and you're always learning this. And it's about being true to yourself. Like, what are your values? But it's also a timing thing. Like, unless you're ready, and I find most people will only reach that point when they hit a very high, intense level of pain. And when you are at that level of pain, and sometimes the pain outweighs, the action that's going to take to actually get you to a better place, like that's when it will kind of hit. So I'm going to say, like, be kind to yourself. Like I always say to people, you got to be your own biggest fan and cheerleader, because at the end of the day, it's a bonus if you have people in your life that will lift you up and help you grow. Like I haven't had that my whole life. So, I do have, friends, and I've got amazing people around me, but I am my own biggest fan. And I will literally talk to myself. And if I feel bad, I will literally say, Justine, how do you feel today? What do I need to do for you today to get you through this day, to make you feel better? Like,
That's
and I'll just
incredible.
talk to myself every hour. I'll be like, okay, you just got through this hour. Like literally, I go to gym 5, 6 days a week, and I come from a bodybuilding background. I did bikini. I did 5 years of competitive bodybuilding, not the Arnold Schwarzenegger type, but the nice,
Yeah.
the feminine part, because I believe
Yeah.
women's feminine, which is a whole nother thing. But I think just being kind to yourself and knowing that you are the best version of yourself without that robotic mentality. Because as I said, I did an Instagram live the other day, and I was saying that all the little things that you do throughout the day or even that month or that year are going to add up to the big actions.
Yeah.
So I don't want people to think they have to be robotic. Look, I know I'm not normal, but I came from very, very humble beginnings. So I had to fight my butt off to get to where I'm at now. And people may see me and go, you look perfect, or Instagram is perfect, but I put in so much work into myself, like body, mind, soul, spirit. I've invested hundreds of thousands of dollars in self-development. Like I'm constantly reading, I'm constantly listening to podcasts. I have my own, as you would know, you've done amazingly in your career and what you're doing. And it just takes work and time, but just be kind to yourself. That's the most important thing. You don't need to be robotic. I mean, we're very A-type personality, right? And it's a very low minority of people that are in that little fraction of people that are going to go get them. But you can learn from these people. Discipline, I think, is the greatest mindset tool we can ever learn for ourselves. And I actually learned the most of that through bodybuilding, because I think in general in health, like food teaches you a lot about self-control, what you put in your body, drinking water. And, like taking care of yourself is the first fundamental law to achieving anything in life, because your physical being, when you feel good and you look good, your inside will feel good, your emotional state, your soul, your spirit. So being a very high functioning entrepreneur has so many different facets to it. I think I would say health is my number one. Like I always put my health first, always.
Yeah. You're dropping bombs here. I want to direct your thoughts here a little bit, because I mean, this is a well of, like, we could just keep going on this, but you've made it so, I don't know, reasonable or plausible that hey, I give myself a little bit of grace, but what I heard you say in that is don't quit, right? Like I'm not giving myself room to be okay with quitting. It's
Yeah.
just keep with the little things, and it's just going to take time. For you, you've put in the work, you've had the discipline, you've invested time and money into, your mind, body, soul, spirit, all the stuff. Where can the listener go to begin that journey? Is it books? Is it help working out? What was the beginning for you maybe, or where can they start to, because this is a big
Uh,
mountain. You and I both have been working on it for a
yeah.
long time, so
Well, firstly, listen to the Gathering Kings podcast. I'm going to say that.
hey, they're here. Okay.
Uh, I'm going to say that. But before that, I mean, I'm a strong believer in there are no excuses in life, and you can't deposit excuses in any asset of your life. So like any part of you that's going to be worth it in the end requires some type of development. But I mean, I was literally 12 and a half and I saved up all my money and went to go see Tony Robbins. So if I can do it as a 12 and a half-year-old, if you're listening to this, it just starts with something small to shift your mindset. And I don't come from, a family of entrepreneurs. I don't come from a family of, you know, that have basically done what I'm doing. I was on my own path and my own journey. So I think for me, it's a matter of just starting small. And whether it's books, there are so many great books out there. I mean, when I was little, there was Encyclopedia Britannica. We couldn't go and YouTube things, or there was no
Right.
TikTok. There was no, how do I explain? Like, we've literally got the world at our fingertips in this little phone that we have sitting in our lap now. And I'm not saying go scroll through Instagram. Like, you got to be also disciplined with where you spend your time online, but invest in things that interest you. And I would say focus on becoming the very best in what you do in your field.
Yeah, there's a lot of really practicals in there. One last question here before we get to a little bit some more practical stuff. The intensity that you run at, you said that, there's A type, you realize that you're not normal. And I would say that you and I both are like this. We just have this clear understanding that I'm unique. But what I would also say is that many people listening today fit in that same category. They just maybe don't have the enlightenment yet that you and I do, that they too are unique. And so what would you say to the person listening right now who wants to believe that they're part of the unique, or they want to be successful? They hear you and they're kind of getting fired up about this burning desire and this never quit mentality. And it's like, okay, like I want to do that, but maybe they've got brokenness, or maybe they've got, a health issue, or they've got something that's always kind of just like kept them back
Mhm.
from really truly winning. What would you say to like, how do they overcome that thing, that one thing that's like just dragging them down? They want what you're saying.
Hit it head on. Go to where it hurts the most first and face it. Seriously. And I know it's easier said than done. And trust me, I've been there, done that. But I always say you got to conquer the thing that hurts you the most, because that out of pain is always born power, and you will feel insatiable. I always say out of adversity is born advantage. So you
Love that.
really got to hit that thing on the head. Whatever it is that's bothering you, I promise you, on the other side of that is going to lie something so great that it's going to transform your person, your character, where you're headed, your path. And then also, you never know who's going to be watching you in your
That's right.
process. So if you're not just doing it for yourself, do it for the result and do it for someone else around you that's in the same shoes that thinks they can't do it.
Yeah.
Because I guarantee you're going to inspire them. And that is what I call a legacy, when you can inspire people by just doing it yourself and showing that it can be done. Because the human mind is so incredible and the human body is so incredible, and you can mold it and it will adapt. So look, I don't know, everyone has different issues and problems. I mean, on my Instagram live, I was talking about, I was at the gym the other day and there's a guy at my gym who's in a wheelchair, but he's there 6 days a week. And he literally from the waist down can't move, but he trains his upper body. And I
He's working
watched,
them biceps.
yeah. And I watched this guy. I was fascinated. I went up to him. I went, you are just so, like, you are the boss. Like, you are brilliant.
Inspirational. Yeah.
And, I said to him, what is it with you? And he goes, I just show up. Because it'd been really easy to wake up in the morning and cry about what happened. But basically, I'm doing it because I know there's someone sitting there watching this and watching my journey. And I don't want to be the person that cries alone in my room. Like, I have to action it. And I think when you come from a place of don't make it about you, make it about other people, then things start to happen in your life. And I know that's what I do. And trust me when I tell you, I've been through some really dark times. So I know what it takes. And I'm coming from a place of I have been there, done that. One of my mentors who I listen to, Ed Milet, I don't know if you know him, but he says that you are basically, you qualify to help those people where you were at once you surpass that stage. And I absolutely love that, like, since I heard that. So
Yep.
I'm a strong believer in that. Don't make it about you, make it about other people.
Yeah. Yeah, you're bringing them along, and that truth that you just mentioned that Ed talks about is a great humbling piece, and I've, on previous episodes I've talked about the warrior mindset and the transition into king and or queen in this case, but really that mature king or queen mindset is really about others. And so the quicker that you can make that transition, it doesn't mean that you have a certain amount of money or a certain amount of material possession or resource. What it means is that you have a certain think. And that think that you just described is, okay, well, I've made it this far. I can help somebody behind me get to where I am. Then I need to be in community with people that are along with me. And then I need to get around the eds of the world of people that can pull me forward. And we all need all three, right? Would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
The power of bringing someone else behind you, though, really, it's almost like self-accountability. I had a client of mine just, I don't know, a couple months ago. They were like, "Hey, so everywhere, like, you talk about working out with people, you talk about, obviously gather with the kings, like you're always in group settings, you're on podcasts with people, you have teams here in all of your businesses. Like, there's always people around you. You have a big family, like you have 4 kids." I'm like, "Yeah, because I know that if I put someone else on that calendar invite, that hypothetical calendar invite, sometimes I'm gonna freaking show up. Because sometimes for myself, I won't."
100%. It's such an accountability level, which also brings me to the fact that I think what you're doing is actually amazing because, a lot of people will just kind of work on themselves, right? But it takes a big, I'm going to say, a great entrepreneur actually to pull other people with them. And I think that's also my mission in life. And it's a choice because you can very easily just focus on yourself. But what
Right,
makes you an entrepreneur is how you make people feel and what you leave them with that makes them
right.
think and demand the next level of themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that we are like in that way, but I think that more than anything, we're transferring that same mission, to the listener. And if you're listening right now and some of these things are like, yeah, like, okay, I want to help other people. It really, you don't have to overcomplicate it. Just there's probably people in your small sphere, other business owners or people in your school or in your church. And all it takes is you stop thinking about yourself for 3 minutes and look around the room. Somebody is in need, and you can go and serve them. So please go do that. Hey, kings and queens, Chaz, Wolfe. I want to talk to you about something that's super important to me. We put a lot of time and effort, we meaning myself and my team, into this podcast, into the content that goes out every single day. And if you have been getting any sort of value or insight from this, we want it to be able to reach other business owners too. So we would love if you would like, comment, share, leave a review, post, share again, all of the things on social media, on all the different platforms, or even on the podcast mediums of Apple and Spotify. We would love to be able to get our content into more hands, more entrepreneurs, so they can grow their business as quick as possible. Together, we are building a community of like-minded entrepreneurs who are committed to growing their businesses to new heights. So let's do this. Let's help each other. Let's help each other grow. Justine, I want to know of a good decision that you've made in business. You've been doing this for a long time. You've not only grown your business, but you've grown many other businesses. Give me a super practical thing that you've done in business that was just a really good decision that the listeners can go implement today.
Set my standards high. So you're not going to be everyone's cappuccino, as I said. I know you get a good cappuccino now in America, but you have to stay true to your morals and values. And I don't work with clients who don't demand 100% of themselves. So sometimes it doesn't matter how good the
That's good.
money is or the environment, like you have to align with your values as a person, as an entrepreneur, as a business. So
Yeah.
it is a lot of money, or if you're talking certain things but doesn't align with your values or morals, I'm going to say, like, just leave it, because the pain of working with that, that organization or company or whatever it is, it's going to cost you more in the long term. The other thing is intuition is so important in business. Like you feel this thing in your gut. If it's wrong, it's wrong. And you
Yep.
have to become trusting in that. And that's something that I would say I have developed a sixth sense with, but it takes time, it takes work, it takes effort. The more people you work with, the more people on your journey you work with, the better you'll become at it. But again, like you got to set very high standards. It's kind of like a high quality date, like you're not going to be low quality in certain things in life. You're not going to go eat
Yeah.
McDonald's every day. It's the same with your business. Like set a high moral compass for your business and set high standards, because the thing is, especially if you're an entrepreneur listening to this and you've been going in your business for a while, like over a decade or whatever it is, like me, you charge what you charge for a reason, because it's your
That's right.
experience, it's your skill set, it's what you've built yourself into. So the other thing is, if people aren't going to align with that, then that's okay. Then, it's not meant for you. And you kind of got to let that go. And I'm cool with it. I'm in a blessed position where I'm working with incredible entrepreneurs and global brands all over the world, but I'm always true to my values. And if something doesn't align with my values, I'm like, bye, au revoir, you
Yep.
know?
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think gave you that ability or confidence? Of course, you've turned down, and that takes confidence in that moment. But the confidence just initially just to believe that this is who I am, and I'm not going to settle. Even going back to the dating scenario, male or female, how do I
Mhm.
decide? My question for the business side is, how did you decide before the date began that we're not going to McDonald's, or that if he does X, Y, Z, I'm getting up and leaving? Like, how did you set those standards?
I think well, it's gut intuition for me, but it's also a matter of like seeing it, how the person or how the company shows up for you. Because it's not, at the end of the day, like we can take anyone and make them look like $1 million. And that's why I'm very careful with who I brand, because I know once I work with them, I know what I can do. And it's not coming from an arrogant place at all. It's literally like
You
I
know
can
your
do
skill
this.
set. Yeah.
Exactly. So I think it's going back to that value set, and I know what I can deliver. So it's like gut instinct, do I really want to do this for, a company or a brand that doesn't align with my values and that is all about the wrong things?
Yeah.
So very rare that happens. But again, and also, as I said, I'm very spiritual. So I believe, the universe delivers the right things for you at the right time. But again, you're going to be tested, because sometimes it's very tempting, but you've got to stay true to your values, because something better is always on the way. And I truly believe that. Just be good, be kind, have empathy, do good work. That's all you have to remember.
Yeah. I heard a comment the other day. It was a client of mine had been with somebody, and I don't remember who he got this from. So it may have been his quote, it may be somebody else's, but he said, life will get better and better forever and ever. And it was just like, as simple as that is, it was like, life will get better and better forever and ever. I was like, whoa,
Yes.
wow.
Exactly.
Like, that's powerful. Like, just think about it. I wrote it. I was like, whoa, say that again. I'm on the phone with him, and I walk over to my board, and it's still written right over here. And life will get better and better forever and ever. And it's like, wow, that's just like, doesn't mean there's not gonna be bad days. It just means that in the grand scheme, if I just zoom out a little bit, life's going like this, if I wanted to, right?
Or to go like this if you wanted to too. But yeah,
That's
it's
right.
about attitude. Attitude is so important. And I think, just showing up, like just show up. Even if you have, I think sometimes you have to fake it until you make it. And, why I'm saying that, it's how you speak to yourself in your mind. You can
Right.
be having worst down earth, like ever. And I know my sister will probably listen to this, but she knows I'm big with she'll never call me now and go, I'm having a bad morning.
Yeah.
Try that again, rephrase that, and retract that from the universe. And she'll go, I retract that from the universe, because I'm very big on how you do one thing is how you do everything. It's 100 or nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so good. Okay, what about a bad decision? Something that you've done that wasn't your greatest hour, big ol' oops. Give us the juicy details.
I think when I was younger, over delivering for clients who didn't appreciate it. And
Mm,
that's another thing, right? So you have to know what you deliver is great if you are good at what you do, but also get paid for your time, because you don't go into a restaurant, order everything on the menu, and then go, okay, bye. Like, thanks a lot. Like, you've
right.
got to really be paid for your time. So I think bad decision, doing a lot of free stuff and not getting paid for it. But I think also there's a fine line, right? You have to do free stuff in order to get your name out there. So, I
Yep.
mean, it's catch 22. And I think if I was living in this generation again, I would be knocking down corridors, I swear, because, it's that level of tenacity. You got to be making calls, you got to be developing your character. But it's just about, I think, don't take no for an answer. And I think just don't give up. Just don't give up.
Yeah, it's good. The over delivering, basically doing a bunch of free things is interesting because there's an altruisticness about it where it makes me feel good that I'm productive and that I'm working and that I'm doing things for people. And I know of entrepreneurs who have done this where they look up, 2 months, 2 years later, and there's been no sales, no revenue, no money, but they feel good about it because they've just been, doing the thing supposedly. But it's like
Mhm.
they just really haven't looked in the mirror to be honest with themselves. They don't have a business. They have a hobby, which is fine, but if let's call it a hobby or let's call it a business. And so what I'm hearing from you is if you are a business owner here today listening and you're having troubles, charging more, it number one, it could be because you're not delivering. That's not what Justine's talking about.
Yeah,
But make
exactly.
sure you're delivering.
So you're delivering.
Yeah, but then number 2, you could be doing too much. Your value might be there and you're not just positioning it correctly. Maybe you need a little bit of a sales training really just to help you understand your value and how to present yourself and collect money. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Like what Justine's saying, to be able to not only give value but present in a certain way and then be able to collect as long as you're delivering and over delivering. I think all these things are good. And as entrepreneurs, we struggle with like, oh, well, but if I, I'll give them a discount or I'll do it for free or like this is the game that you said you played too long, right?
And I think that's it. Like, there's a fine line, right? Like there's certain avenues that yes, you do free stuff, but I mean, you built many incredible sales teams. So you understand this, but I think it's knowing your value and knowing your worth if you're good at what you do. If you've worked to really get there and you've got like someone bargaining with you to try and drop your prices or do whatever, maybe it's a blessing. Like let them go elsewhere. Like I know in myself the value I deliver. I know what my team can do. So like if it comes to dropping value or going down a path that I'm not happy with, I won't do it because everyone needs incentive in life. Like you have to be incentivized to do your job really well. And I'm not coming from an arrogant place when I say this, but it's your own value in yourself. If you don't feel good with what you're making after 10 years of being in the game, then you're in the wrong industry.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
got
You're
it. You
doing it
have
wrong.
you're doing it wrong, 100%.
What business resource? I kind of asked you earlier, books and stuff like that, but what's really touched you as far as a business resource? Maybe it's a podcast, maybe it's a book, something that you've been able to invest in that the listeners can go grab.
Oh my gosh, there's been so much. Like, I mean, I have read a lot of Ed Milet's books, like they were very inspiring. But I will tell you something really interesting that actually touched me in my life. Couple of things, but
Okay.
when I was six and a half, 7 years old, I heard Nelson Mandela speak at my school.
Wow.
And then he said, there's no passion to be found in living a life where you live small. It was something around that quote, and I remember it, and it's always stayed with me. And I think that was one of the things that was like my driving force behind my life because I have been through so much, right? But it's the path that we pick. There's also a lady called Stormy Wellington. I'm going to give her a huge shout out. I don't know if you've heard about her. She
No.
is incredible. She's a force to be reckoned with. I think that she was one of the people on my journey and my path over the last couple of years that really tapped into my soul, I would say, and taught me that you have to work on yourself in terms of your mindset. You got to be your own biggest fan. And I
Yeah.
think that's one of the most important lessons that I've learned because at the end of the day, when you go to sleep at night, whether you married, whatever situation you're in, you're still alone. Like we die alone. We come into the world alone. We die alone. So at the end of the day, you have to be 100% in yourself to be able to tackle any circumstances around you. Because if you're not whole, then you're going to be half wherever you show up. And when you look at it like that, you'll want to put the work into yourself. But that
Yeah.
was one of the things. So, but I mean, I'm always listening to podcasts. I have my own podcast. I've spoken to such incredible entrepreneurs. And I think it's just like find what resonates with you because there's certain things that I've resonated with that may not work for other people. But whatever you're weak in, what I'm going to say is focus on that. So if you're weak in money, find every single money book that's highly rated. I mean, if you don't like reading, you can listen. There's Audible, like
That's
they're
right.
really on uses. There's the Gathering Kings podcast. I've heard of the guy Chaz. He's pretty awesome. There's so many resources out there. It's incredible. Just find what resonates with you. But that's kind of the stuff that stands with me.
Yeah. Well, I'll give you a chance here. Let us know the name of your podcast since you've mentioned it here a couple of times. We'll also put it here in the show notes. But what's the name so we can look for it?
It's called the $1 Million Branders podcast. And I actually interviewed Stormy on there. So she's going to come up
Perfect.
2 episodes. You can go check her out. She's really a force to be reckoned with. But I'm all about elevating entrepreneurs who make their mark. So we might have to do an exchange. Might have to bring some
Hey,
things to the $1 Million Branders podcast.
love that. Love that. I want to ask you a question. You mentioned earlier, that you're A type, and you're after this thing, but that you are feminine and that, you're not trying to be king. You're trying to be fully queen. And so what's your message for women, lady entrepreneurs out there? Maybe there's some listening here today. I'm sure that there are. We have a pretty split audience. And so what's your message to them? Trying to either A, do it on their own, or maybe they're in a home, like maybe my wife, who's maybe not involved in the day-to-day business, but she's absolutely queen in our home. What's your message to women who are running things, whether that be the home or whether that be a business?
Look, I've got very, very, I'm going to say rigid views on this because I came from I'm a South African woman, and in our culture, like, just me as a person, I think that men have such high value in society. Good men. I'm going to really highlight that. Good men who strive to be better and who strive to be great. I have so much respect because I don't think it's very easy to be a man. I think there's a lot of pressure on you, and there's a lot of pressure on women too. I'm not like, with both
Yeah.
sides, right? And I think in the times that we're living in, it's so crazy. Like, I was brought up with very good morals and values, and I hold myself in such high regard and character in terms of my integrity and my growth. And as I said, I put a lot of work into myself. So I think as a woman, what I do think is that this whole boss bitch mentality, I think is ruining our culture. And I think that you can still be a boss, but be feminine, and you will stand so highly regarded in your power. Like, I mean, I have so many male clients, but I think what I bring to the table is it's like a lioness, like a very feminine touch, right? But like you
Yep.
can get that way through branding. So you speak to everyone and through entrepreneurship, but it's also staying strong. And I think a good woman will stand behind her man regardless. So, it's about we bring such a feminine energy to stuff, but like a woman is a woman, a man is a man. Like, we were built differently. And I think if you are
Sure.
a man listening to this and maybe you are struggling to find a woman that's right for you, wait and don't settle, because there are women who really will put you first. But it's about that energy that you tap into. And if you're a woman listening to this, like, just stop trying to be a man. Seriously, that's the best advice I can have for you, because the end of the day, it's not serving you. Like, I mean, Chaz, you tell me, do guys want that these days? Do they want the boss bitch mentality woman? This is really interesting now, but I would love to know because I haven't spoken about this before.
Yeah. And the answer is no. At least not somebody. Again, it's all relative to your beliefs. And so I think if we're talking about somebody who is of the same values that you're mentioning, then no. What they want is a soft touch. What they want
Absolutely.
is an encourager. That doesn't mean though that when I step out of line or when I do something that my wife isn't like direct with me. I love the phrase, I'm the head, but the neck turns the head whichever way she wants.
I love that.
And as funny as that is, it's a give and a take because there are a lot of things in our own household that are very traditional, but yet Julie is an extremely strong woman. And if she had married somebody who wasn't as dominant as I am, she would probably be running the house because she's that dominant, she's that strong and that capable. And
Yeah.
so I think to your point, yes, you have women who are, for lack of better terms, trying to be men, trying to lead and be dominant. But I think the problem lies just with as many men who don't know how to lead and don't care to lead, and they would rather play video games.
Yeah.
And so because they're lazy and stuck and sitting in front of the couch watching football or whatever, then their woman has to. And so as much blame as you're saying, hey, ladies, like, don't do this. And I understand it and I respect that. And I think that that's the right position. I'm going to say to the fellas, she's doing it because you're not. Somebody's got to take charge. Someone's got to lead. And because you, in essence, wanted to marry your mom and you wanted her to serve you, that's not what marriage looks like. It's not, she doesn't just bring you the sandwich, bro. Yes, I'll tell you right now. If I ask for a sandwich, Julie will make it for me for sure because she knows how to make sandwiches and she loves to do it and she loves to serve me in that way. But that's not a flippant thing. Like I don't just expect that. It is very much a back and forth of what it is that our roles are. And so I think if anything, we've just depicted that like, hey, there's kind of like maybe the wrong thing happening on both sides, but it's about, hey, if you, a strong woman, were led by an even stronger man, then you would probably feel comfortable to be feminine, right?
100%. Exactly. And I'm not saying there's any, like, I'm really strong. I'm a very strong woman and I have my eye on the prize, but I'm also extremely feminine. But I think it's just the blurred lines of where things are at. Like, I think that's,
Right.
I think you're spot on, like women want a man who's going to lead. Most women, most good women. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but we are built in a feminine way. Like I still have my business, I still work, I still do that stuff. Right. And I have been in a situation like that. In actually in Africa, in the wild, the lioness is the one who gets the food. The lion. Actually.
That's right. Yeah, there's a lot of things we can paint pictures of here. To kind of cap this off here, I was talking with Julie just the other night. Actually, this was just literally just this past week, and she was referencing a contact that she has, an acquaintance, and a very dominant woman, and she has her own business. Actually, she has a couple of businesses, does very well, and her husband doesn't. And so we were talking because my wife, Julie, had heard somebody saying, a pretty dominant male figure somewhere saying, basically that guy, that her friend's husband is a piece of nothing. Right. And really like coming down hard on him. And she was like, wow, what if she just wants to get after it and he wants to be at home with the kids? Is that a problem? And I was like, well, hold on. Let me give you a different perspective, which is kind of what we just talked about. I said, if that woman was married to me, because now she knows me. I said, if that woman that you know was married to me, do you think that she she wouldn't have to work. So would she? And Julie's answer was no, she wouldn't. I know actually, even though she loves going after it and getting it in her business, what she misses the most is time with her kids. And so, yeah, now that you say it like that, if she was married to somebody like you who took care of business, would she have to?
Yeah, exactly.
So we could put as much weight on the fellas.
That's actually really important. That's why your podcast, I think, is amazing because I want guys to know that there are women out there who want to be led. And it doesn't matter how successful they are, what they tell you, like you lead and you be a man and you stand up because that's what's really missing in society. So if you can go after it, stay fit, stay healthy and be strong as a man, that is such a valuable man in our society now.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Justine, I have one last question here for you. I want to know if you had the opportunity to whisper in the younger Justine's ear, what would you tell that little girl?
I would say you got this. I would literally say you got this. Like just keep believing. And she already knew not to give up. Like she already knew that she was onto something from like I've always been like a little rebel. It's like I was just always a rebel growing up. So I knew that was a vision for me. But I think I would just say you got this and just keep going no matter what people tell you on your path. And I think that's exactly what I would still tell myself now, which is so crazy actually when I think about it. What a great question.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty powerful. And I think I would use a very similar phrase. You got this. Justine, number one, you've mentioned your podcast. I want you to tell us your website. How can someone listening today, maybe they need a branding agency to help them grow their business. And if they are the right fit for you and they have those qualifications that you mentioned earlier, how can they find you and how can they start working with you? Or if they're just an entrepreneur, they want to get to know you better, maybe they can find you on the podcast, or how else can they find you on social?
Sure. So I'm very active on Instagram. You can go, my surname's a bit long. Chaz's Bitcoin is in the mail because he said it right. about it earlier, but it's with Justine Pogroske _official on Instagram. I'm also on Threads. Are you on Threads, Chad?
Oh yeah, you
Okay,
know it.
perfect. So follow Chad on Threads too. We'll be having some banter, I have no doubt.
There you go.
And also I'm on Twitter, I'm on TikTok, same, all the same, like underscore and hashtag same. And you can also go check out my website, JustinePogroskeOfficial.com or milliondollarbranders.com. And I've got some exciting new businesses launching, but you can go follow me there. And please send me a DM if there's anything you want to know, how I can serve you. And Chaz, thank you so much. It's been such an honor being on your podcast. And thank you for just speaking light into so many through your very smart conversations. It's so nice talking to someone so intelligent and so driven and grounded, and appreciate you.
Well, those are very kind words. I received those, and we're right back at you. Thank you for being here. The energy that you brought, one, but your intelligence also. I really hope that the listener even goes back and listens, because even though some of the things that you shared are maybe what would the listener might consider cliche, they're really, really important. And it's why you and I, even though they might feel cliche, why we
Yeah.
simply talk about it and do them every single day, because they actually matter.
Yeah.
And so you brought what matters today. And so I appreciate that. Blessings to you, your
Like,
businesses, everything that you have going on. Thanks for being here.
thank you so much, Chaz.
Thank you for listening to Gathering the Kings today. I hope that you were able to pull out a few nuggets to go apply into your business right away. More importantly, though, I hope that you're realizing that it takes more to be successful than just being by yourself, doing it all on your own, carrying the weight all by yourself. What I have realized, not only in my own journey from multiple businesses and multiple different industries, and now interviewing over 200 or 300 other very successful 7, 8, and 9-figure business owners, is that it's tough to do it alone. And so Gathering the Kings exists to bring together successful entrepreneurs. In fact, we are putting together 1,000 kings, specifically who are grateful but not done. We're intentionally assembling kings who fight tooth and nail for their business, family, and communities. And here's what we believe, that in the pursuit of excellence in those areas, that it ignites within us the responsibility to govern power and forge a lasting legacy. So if that relates and resonates with you, and you know that you need people around you, sharp, qualified, other very successful business owners, I want you to go to gatheringthekings.com. I want you to take a look at what we're doing and see if it makes sense for you to be part of our pursuit to 1,000 kings. Talk soon.